Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to take a look at a project which is very easy and quick to create and can be mass produced in no time. I have used products from the Cat Scrappiness Magical Quokka release, which is a fun magical theme release full of surprises. We have paper pads, dies, stamps and these beautiful ephemera pieces that I'll be using for our card today. Let us first take a look at the magical Quokka paper pad that I'll be using as the background for my card front. Now these are double-sided pattern paper. We have 12 patterns here, 4 of each design. These papers measure 6 by 6, which is perfect for your A2 size card fronts. These are printed in a semi-matte finish 80-pound cardstock. This paper pad coordinates perfectly with all of the products from the Magical Quokka line. Next we have the Magical Quokka Ephemera pack, which includes 56 colored die-cut pieces. Again, this would coordinate perfectly with the paper pad that I'll be using today. Now the best part about having these ephemera pieces is that you have your images already colored and die cut. And when you look at the quality of these die cut pieces, it's really amazing. You can directly adhere them onto your card front. I have many interactive cards that I have created using these ephemera pieces and they hold up really tight on your card. You will see that you don't need to double up on these die cut pieces when you're trying to adhere them onto your card front, which is usually the case that I do with most of my die cut pieces. Now for my background, I have used this diagonal striped red color cardstock, which is the paper pad from the Magical Quokka paper pad. I used my Spellbinders A2 nested dies to create a frame. This is slightly smaller than a regular A2 size frame. Now all I have to do is find a perfect focal point for this card front. Now I did a lot of permutation combination, figured out what exactly would look nice as a focal point for my card image, and I decided to go with this little quokka holding a little owl on his hand. Initially, I had thought of just adhering him directly onto the card front, but later I decided that he needs some kind of grounding. So I took a strip of white colored cardstock from my scrap piece of cardstocks and adhered him onto that. Well, along with the main focal point, I wanted to add some more features around him to just fill up my card front. The white strip would also be a ground for my sentiment. Now here I have the Quokka Flower sentiment and I will be stamping "Everyone needs a friend like you" sentiment onto it using some black ink. The Quokka Flowers stamp set was part of the Valentine's release by Cat Scrappiness. This is a 4 by 6 clear stamp and it features an adorable Quokka character holding flowers, which roughly measures around 3 by 2.25 inches. And it also has some beautiful sentiments with a very beautiful font. I really love the font on the sentiment, which is why I chose to use this on my card front today. Just to make sure that I had the positioning of the sentiment correct, I kept the entire layout of my card front on my stamping tool before stamping, and then I used the VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp the sentiment. Note that this stamp set comes with coordinating die sets which can be bought separately. Now once my stamping was done, I decided to give this a little vintagey look, for which I have this blending brush. I didn't use any ink on this brush. Whatever leftover ink was there, I very light-handedly blended it onto my sentiment strip. So here we have our sentiment strip, the focal point and the background ready. All we have to do is assemble the card front. I begin by using some Barely Art glue to adhere my sentiment strip. I will cut off the excess using a pair of scissors. Again, using the same brown blending brush, I added some extra color onto the edges of the sentiment strip. Now before I adhere all of those tiny little focal point die cut ephemera pieces, I decided to first adhere this background piece onto the card base. Here I'm using some double-sided tape to adhere this card base. You could use barely art glue or even use foam tape for some extra dimension. But I decided to go flat because I will be using foam tape to adhere my Quokka onto the card front, and I didn't want a lot of dimension because that would make it a little difficult to mail out this card. Now for my focal point, the quokka holding his little friend owl, I use these tiny foam dots just to add a little lift to the focal point. Now before adhering it onto the card front, I like to use dots of liquid glue just so that I have some wiggle room. For all of the other ephemera die cut pieces, I directly adhered them using my barely arts glue. Now, I like using the cat Scrappiness reverse tweezers whenever I am trying to adhere any of these little die cut pieces on my card front. And well, here's a look at the finished card. This was a very easy, simple project where there was no stamping, no die cutting, everything was already done for you. All you had to do is make sure you have a perfect blend of all these die cut pieces to make a beautiful card front. 56 pieces of die cut ephemera is a lot, so you could use these products to mass produce cards which were similar to this or create birthday cards, so many more projects. Now here is an example of an interactive card where I used an action wobble and this flying quokka as the focal point of my card. So here I just use one of those die cut ephemera pieces and paired it with a sentiment strip which says flying by to say happy birthday. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video and got inspired. I will leave a link to all the products that I have used down in the description box below. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.